You know, oftentimes schools ask me, what do we need to do to prevent bullying in the schools? And there's not a simple answer. It's complex, and they need to approach it from a number of different avenues. So we know that schools that have less victimization, less bullying, have a number of characteristics. These schools have teachers that have opportunities to learn about bullying and develop their competencies in intervening to help kids, right? But it's not only the teachers, that the administrators understand that bullying is a phenomenon that happens in most schools, and the administrators are supportive of the teachers when they see bullying in the classroom. In addition to that, many of the schools that are successful in reducing bullying have parent evenings, go into parent communities to talk about the bullying that might be stemming from the home environment, recognizing that a child that is a bully in the classroom has certain risk factors that might be associated with being victimized by a sibling at home. And so when school administrators and teachers recognize the complexity of bullying and their prevention programs target that complexity, meaning that there's opportunities for students to learn what we call social emotional learning skills or social skills to handle their conflicts such that normal conflicts may not escalate into bullying, right? So we focus on the students in the classroom and developing skills. We have teachers that recognize that it is part of their responsibility to create pro-social classrooms and create opportunities for kids to have friends and have social support. We have these teachers that are trained in what we call classroom management strategies such that they minimize the opportunity for bullying to happen. At the same time, we really do take this holistic approach to understand that, you know, schools are a culture. A healthy school looks like a healthy family. As teachers and administrators recognize that they spend a lot of time in that school building with the kids, that it's their responsibility to create supportive relationships where bullying will not be tolerated. One thing that we caution against is what we call zero tolerance for bullying. We need to recognize that, especially as kids go through early adolescence, some of the most popular kids in the school building are engaging in high rates of bullying because it works for them. They have what we call high social status and social capital. And so it's imperative in the early adolescent years for teachers and administrators to create opportunities such that bullying is not a rewarded behavior within the context of peer groups. So in reality, bullying prevention needs to target the individual kids' social skills and social emotional learning competencies. We need to work with teachers and administrators to gain social competencies around protecting kids. We need to also understand that there's many other people in the school building that play a critical role, whether that's a cafeteria worker or the custodial staff, that all interact with kids. Everybody has to have that same message that we are here. This is a school, we are a family, we want to create a safe space that all kids are protected. The reality is we're never going to eradicate bullying. In some ways it's a part of just some of our fabric, our culture, but we want to minimize that such that when kids enter that school building they feel connected and it's a place of resiliency where they can thrive and strive. So there's a number of mistakes that schools have made over the last couple decades of my doing this bullying prevention work, and one that has probably been the most problematic is many schools will use what we call peer mediation, and that's where they'll bring a bully into the room with the victim. And we now know from research that actually that just increases the victimization over time. And so that's a critical mistake. Peer mediation should not be used with a real bullying situation where one player, if you will, has more power than the other. Unfortunately, another big mistake that schools have used is to bring in what we call kind of a speaker that comes in and may talk about the link between bullying and suicide. That's not helpful. And so they also may have an hour assembly where someone comes in and tells the kids not to bully or to be an upstander or be a bystander. And what we know is these one-off assemblies actually make things worse. Most of the kids are not paying attention during the assembly. Schools do this because there might be a legal mandate and they have a checklist and they can check it off that they've done bullying prevention. That's a big mistake. An additional mistake is that oftentimes we have really good evidence-based programs that reduce bullying, but because of the demands on the schools, social workers and school psychologists will pick You know, if it's a program with 15 lessons, they'll pick 3 lessons and only do those 3 lessons. We need to recognize that many of these evidence-based programs are developed so that they're developmentally sensitive and they build on one another. And so if you do not have the support of your administrator to implement the entire program, we suggest that you don't do the program at all and find another evidence-based program that fits the time that you've been allotted to do this work. Oftentimes schools will ask me, what is the one thing that I can do to prevent bullying in my school? And what I often say to them is work on building stronger relationships. We do know that bullying is a problem that emerges through relationships, right? It's a relationship phenomenon. And so often when I start working with schools, I will have them do one activity, and that is to bring all their teachers and staff into a room and have them write down the names of the students that they feel that they know and have a relationship with. When they go off on break in this professional development, we then compare that to the school roster. And when they come back in, we on the big screen will have all the names of the kids that were not named on a Post-it. And so if you can find out, and oftentimes it's 20 to 25% of the students in the schools, and then find out why it is that those kids do not have a significant relationship with an adult in the building, and then move to institute your bullying prevention program.